When you think of the history of us in India, there must be ghosts. Hundreds of thousands, probably.
Is that you?
Yes.
Didn't you get my note? I went to the sanctuary. I haven't got a cigarette. Let me try one of those again.
What were you trying to prove? That you don't mind our touching?
I thought we got beyond that.
No. You can never get beyond it.
But we have. I have. It was never an obstacle anyway. At least not for me.
Why did you come to the Bibigar?
I was cycling back to the McGregor, and then I stopped to take off my cape. I thought you might be here.
You oughtn't to be out alone tonight. I'll take you home. Throw that disgusting thing away.
Sister Ludmilla, I believe you know a girl called Daphne Manners. I've just come from the McGregor house, and she isn't home yet. Have you seen her?
Yes, Mr. Merrick. She was here, but left just before it got dark. No one has come to the sanctuary tonight because of rumors in the Black Town.
Why was she here then?
She sometimes comes to help at the clinic.
I see. I didn't know that. How often does she come here?
Very rarely.
Alone? Was she alone tonight?
Yes, alone.
Where did she plan to go?
Home, so far as I know. To the McGregor house, by the Bibigar Bridge. Didn't you come that way?
No, I went first to the police post at the Mandir Gate. Then I remembered she talked once of having been to the sanctuary. So I drove here.
Then you probably missed her.
But you say she left at dusk. I was at the McGregor house till nearly 9 and she hadn't got back yet.
Perhaps she called in at Mrs. Sengupta's.
Ah, yes. The aunt.
Or somewhere else. She left at dusk.
Mrs. Sengupta.
What is it? Why are you here?
My name is Merrick, District Superintendent of Police.
Police?
I believe you know an English girl named Daphne Manners. Has she been here tonight?
No.
Your nephew, Mr. Kumar.
Harry
Where's he?
has not come home. I know nothing. Always I'm telling him.
Very well.
What is it, Robin?
Hospital report on Miss Crane.
The mission school teacher?
Yeah, she was attacked on the road from Devonport. Physically, it seems she's okay, but they're concerned about her state of mind.
Oh, poor Miss Crane. Of course, she always was a trifle odd.
Lily Chafji hasn't rung.
No, not a squeak.
I think Ronald Merrick was right, saying the Manners girl was heading for trouble.
No, she hasn't come back here. Well, that's what is strange. She always rings me if something turns up at the last moment and she can't get home. Yes, so Mr. Merrick said. Are things bad, Robin?
We don't know, Lily. There's been some trouble over at Devonport. She's not home yet. Look, would you like to come and spend the night with us?
Are people moving into the funk holes? The club is one place, Robin, that I can't go.
Help!
Madam!
Auntie!
Madam!
I think she may be here now. Yes, I'll ring you back.
Auntie. Oh, Auntie.
Beg pardon. I'll ring for Dr. Klaus. Will you stupid fellow do something? Are you drunk?
I make you now a drink.
Thank you.
Who was it? Was it Harry?
No. No. I've not seen Harry. Not since that night we visited the temple.
Who was it then?
I don't know. 5 or 6 men I didn't see. It was dark. They covered my head.
Where did it happen?
The BB car.
In the BB car?
Whose car is that?
It may be Robin White. He telephoned. You'll be all right with Anna.
Can I have a bath? Will you ask one of the boys to run one for me?
In a moment. I think Ronald Merrick is here.
Ronald?
Well, there must be questions. The police will require some details of medical evidence.
I don't want to see anyone.
But if you wish it, I will tell them all they need to know.
I'm glad that it was you. Thank you, Anna.
That was Ronald. He came here before looking for you.
That was kind. But I'm back now. You told him it's all right. You sent him away.
But you see, my dear, it isn't, is it? He wants to know how many men. Did you recognize them? Could you recognize them? What were you doing in the Bibi Ghar? You'll have to explain.
You told him it wasn't Hari, didn't you? You told him.
Superintendent Saab.
It's evidence.
Spy, इसको ले जाओ और सुपरिटेंडेंट साहब की गाड़ी में रखो जल्दी जाओ Look, Saab, what is there?
Leave them. We'll go to the level crossing. Ask the keeper if he's seen anything. There's a light in that shed.
Excuse us, sir. It's good liquor, Superintendent Saab. Not hooch we're drinking.
Take them to police headquarters. Where's your friend then?
Please, who's that?
Doesn't matter. I know where to find him now.
Honey, he's here.
Out of the way, Mrs. Sengupta.
What is it?
It's all right, Aunt Shalini.
If you'll wait downstairs, Mrs. Sengupta, we shan't be long.
What is this trouble?
Please, Aunt Shalini. Do as Mr. Merrick says. Who gave you permission to burst into my room, Merrick?
You've just taken these off.
Yes.
Then put them on again.
Why?
Why? Because you're coming with me. We're going to have another of our little chats. Like we had before, after I found you at the sanctuary.
What about?
Are you going to dress yourself? Or shall we do it for you?
I'll dress myself.
Here's another one! Hey, Hari, come on! Hello, Hari! We've been drinking, Kumar. Hey, Hari! You know that fine English fellow, British public school? Usko dekha kya hua? Those bastards, they beat him up.
Put your things there. Is this a medical inspection? There's no doctor here.
You've been intelligent enough to wash. We almost caught you at it, didn't we? Arkady Lagarka.
What's this about? You still haven't told me. You've no right to do this without making a charge.
Chale jao.
I shan't answer any of your questions until you tell me why I'm here.
SV Vidyasagar, Narayan Lal, Bapu Ram, Puranmal Mehta, Gopi Lal. These men are all friends of yours. And as you saw, we have them under lock and key. I hope we might have a talk. She wasn't a virgin, was she? You know what's been going on. Government arrested Mr. Gandhi at 4 o'clock this morning. Since then, riots have broken out at various places. Gangs of hooligans have appeared. On the road to Dibrapur, an English woman, Miss Edwina Crane, was stopped in her car and assaulted. The Indian schoolmaster who was with her was killed. I thought we could talk about these things. A lot of things. What do you know about a man called Pandit Baba? Those young men upstairs, they admire you, don't they? They do anything you say. And they believe what Gandhi tells them, that this is the moment to strike for freedom from British rule. They've seen the Japanese drive us out of Singapore and Burma. Now let them drive the British out of India and hand it to them on a plate. Well, that's what Pandit Baba preaches. And they believe him. But do you? They're rather foolish. Well, they haven't had your English public school education. Chillingborough, one of the best. Perhaps the best, you'd say. Why didn't you go to the sanctuary tonight? She was there. Look, it might be a help to you if you could tell me something about Pandit Baba. He came a few times to your aunt's house. Now, he's the kind I really despise. Stirring up young fellows like Vidyasagar to get themselves arrested and lying low himself. Did you quarrel with the old devil? It's quite possible. How did you get those marks on your face?
I've told you, Merrick. I shan't answer any of your questions until you tell me why I'm here.
We're making inquiries about a woman who is missing. An English woman. You know which one. The one who likes black cock. And the more, the merrier.
You bastard. I haven't seen Miss Manners for 3 weeks since we visited the temple. You bastard, Merrick.
All the same, you do know why you're here. Because of Miss Manners. As you've just told me. Though that isn't only what I want to talk to you about. In some ways, it's irrelevant. Still, we have time. I'm speaking of the past. Till now, you and I have been just symbols to one another. Now, our relationship has to become real. Tonight. It's not enough to say that I'm English and you're Indian. That I'm the ruler and you're one of the ruled. Some people talk of comradeship between your kind and mine, and there is a comradeship of a sort. It's basic. But do you really know on what it's based? On fear. Contempt on my side, and fear on yours. We have to find out about that too. To live with it. And act it through, this relationship between us, so that neither of us will ever be able to forget it again. Or ever again be tempted to pretend that it doesn't exist or claim that it was something else. Contempt and fear. I think you want to talk. I think you want to tell me where you were tonight. After you left the office of the Mayapur Gazette at 6:15, and the time I arrested you at Mrs. Sen Gupta's, more than 3 hours. Miss Manners says that you stopped her outside the Bibigar just for a chat. She was attacked. She says she was dragged into the gardens and raped, first by you and then by your friends. That's what she told me. But I don't believe her. I think I know the truth, but I want to hear it from you first. What do you say?
No.
What is this? Why do you push me around? I'm not giving you any trouble, I've told you. What will you do?
Superintendent, sir.
Well, Kumar, here's one of your friends. He's come to hear you confess. It wasn't your fault, was it? She egged you on. Just say, yes, I was the one who organized the rape and you'll be released from that contraption. You won't be beaten anymore.
Oh, mercy on us.
Why didn't you speak? You were led by Kumar. How many times did he enjoy her? Why should you suffer for what he has done?
No, Superintendent Saab.
Kateraho!
I know nothing. I'm telling nothing. Mercy of God, why are you treating this fellow so?
It's gonna down.
I know nothing, Kumar. I've told them nothing. Believe me.
Ruko. Fear and contempt. Poor Vidyasagar. You heard his terror. Why not admit it now? Why should those boys suffer for it? Why should you? She egged you on. Just say, yes, that's how it was, and the pain will stop. Just say it once. Just say it once.
We've never seen each other. You've been at home. You know nothing, you saw nothing. Promise me. Oh, there's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. Nothing.
Kumar, you want a drink? I understand it all, you see. Because I'm not really one of them. Not Pucker Saab. Grammar school boy. I know their contempt, even though they'd hide it in front of you. There's no love. No true love between human beings. But only power and fear. You want more water? I'll give it to you. But first you must admit it. Admit you're grateful to me for what you've had. Be honest. Swallow your pride. There's no love, no justice, only power and fear. Drink if you'll admit it. And you'll thank me for it. Drink again. You see? What do you say? Now you can sleep. And tomorrow, you can confess.
Look here, Daphne, I'm awfully sorry about this, but there are questions. Official questions that I have to ask as the DC.
It's all right, Robin.
If it's not too long.
You say you stopped by the Bibby car to take off your rain cape.
Well, originally,
Originally?
yes. Everything was quiet, except the frogs. I suddenly wondered if I'd see the ghosts. Lily told me once the place was haunted, so I sort of said, steady the buffs, and went in.
And then?
Well, of course there wasn't anything, so I sat on the edge of the platform and smoked a cigarette. Suddenly they were there, almost from nowhere.
From nowhere? You didn't see them?
It was all so quick without any warning.
Yes, I see. Look, I am sorry to press this, but is there anything you can remember about them? Any one of them?
I don't think so. I mean, they all look alike, don't they? Especially in the dark. I'd say they were dressed like peasants.
Are you sure?
Yes. Peasants or labourers. They smelled like that too.
Do they smell of drink?
I didn't notice, not specially.
And how many?
5 or 6.
You can't be sure.
All I can remember is being attacked by as many of them as there were. 5 or 6 men of that kind, labourers, hooligans. Stinking to high heaven. That awful smell you get in third-class compartments on Indian trains. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about it.
Yes, I think it is enough now, Mr. White.
Yes, of course.
And I must go as well.
Oh, I will ask one of the boys to make you a cup of tea.
Raju brought me these flowers on my breakfast tray. I'm sorry.
What can I do, Mr. White? Only I am teaching tradition of Indian weaving in college here. Why should they listen to me?
I believe they would, Pandit Saab. That's why I asked the principal for a chance to talk. Well, there's time. They're staging a mass satyagraha, a march across the Bibikar Bridge. I should do everything I can to hold back government's response. But at what point does non-violence turn into violence? Sometimes I think even the Mahatma doesn't understand the consequences of his own actions.
It is not the Mahatma who acts. It is government which acts. What should I be saying to my students? The elephant treads on your toe, but you must not cry out. Their Congress leaders are arrested.
I was forced to that.
And now, because an English girl claims she was attacked, 6 young men are thrown into jail. Stories are put about these men have been beaten. Hindu boys, made to eat beef by Muslim jailers.
Precisely the sort of wild talk that leads to trouble.
It is wild talk, Mr. White, if I am believing it.
Panditji, we must trust each other. Lives may be lost, not yours or mine.
Life is illusion. This is what I am teaching.
There are others who could have helped. I signed the orders for their arrest. As a philosopher, perhaps one day you can explain to me why it is that life compels us to do what we know is wrong. Do nothing and stay pure. If that was the Mahatma's message, he has another one today. And what will come of it?
The answer is that if India is to be free, she must first be defended. And she will be defended by British troops and by their Indian brothers in arms. For Congress does not speak for all India.
India's future must and will be made secure. The fair-minded people here and in India will see to it that she has her rightful place in the sun.
Aunt Lily?
I thought you were asleep.
Why did you close the window?
There's a storm.
I've been listening. I heard gunfire. Aunt Lily, tell me, what's going on?
Connie White telephoned. There have been riots in the town for the last 2 days. It seems the army opened fire and there was a panic. People were killed.
Why? You're hiding something. It's no use, Auntie. I want to know.
It was a demonstration about the boys who've been arrested. 6 Hindu boys. They're calling them the martyrs of Bibikar.
What boys? They weren't boys. I told Robin.
One of them is Hari.
When?
The night it happened. Connie told me. It seems they found your bicycle in a ditch in the Chiliamala Bagh, near Mrs. Sengupta's. And they found Hari there with cuts on his face.
Who found him?
It was Ronald Merrick.
Of course. Do they think they'll get away with it? I told you, Harry wasn't there. He won't stand up in court. Because I'll stand up in court and tell them everything. My God, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? It was Ronald who found my bicycle and planted it. So you can send for Robin and Auntie. You believe me, don't you? It wasn't Harry.
I was afraid for you. Now I'm afraid for all of us. Because of you.
Me?
You don't shrink from anything. Even your mistakes, your marvelous mistakes. Like Pandora, who bashed off to the attic and opened her blasted box.
And you then returned to number 12, Chilianwala Bagh?
Yes, sir.
And there arrested Kumar?
Yes, sir.
this was at 9:40 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And that's when you observed these cuts and abrasions on his face?
Never mind the cuts. He hasn't said a word yet about how he found my...
Miss Manners?
It doesn't matter.
Might you have marked one of the men, or what can you tell us about these cuts?
Why ask me about them? Ask Mr. Kumar. I don't know. He wasn't there.
Put your arms around my neck.
It's here somewhere.
What?
My bicycle.
I didn't bring mine. They must have taken yours. I'll look for it in the morning. It's all right. It's all right. I'll take you home.
No, I've got to go home alone. We've not been together. I've not seen you.
Daphne!
Let me go. You've not been near me. You don't know anything. Say no.
Listen, you must!
Hurry, please.
I've got to be with you. I love you. Please, let me be with you.
Mustn't. No. We've never seen each other. You've been at home. You saw nothing. You know nothing. Promise me. Oh. There's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do. Nothing.
I promise! He was asked. He wouldn't say. Mr. Kumar has consistently refused to give any account of his movements.
Perhaps he had a scrap with the police. It wouldn't be the first time he was hit by a police officer.
Do you want that observation included in the record?
No. I'm sorry.
Judge Mellon, have you any further questions you'd like to put to the district superintendent?
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Merrick. That concludes your examination of this inquiry. Miss Manners, you were present when your evidence was read to the inquiry. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No. Nothing.
There is one thing that I should like to ask. Mr. Merrick gave evidence that your photograph was found in Mr. Kumar's bedroom. Was it one that you gave him?
Yes.
At his request?
It was one I'd had taken and didn't want to keep.
Yes. I see. Judge?
Yes. I see, Miss Manners, that you have refused to identify the men in custody. You did so again the other day. I must ask, why do you refuse this?
I refuse to attempt to identify them because they must be the wrong men. I shall say so in court if necessary.
I understand why you should feel this in the case of the man Kumar. But you must see, in the case of the other men, your refusal to attempt identification might be interpreted as willful obstruction by the principal witness. And that might help to prove the prosecution's case by casting doubt on your reliability.
Well, what do you say?
I assume, and shall continue to assume, you're telling the truth. This whole inquiry is based on that assumption. In your statement, you say you had a brief impression that the men who attacked you were peasants or laborers. With this impression in your mind, why do you refuse to cooperate in helping us as best you can to decide whether the men being held are held on sufficient grounds?
No, I won't cooperate. One of these men is innocent. And if one is innocent, I'm not interested in the others. The men who raped me were peasants. The boys you've got locked up aren't, so they're almost certainly innocent too. For one thing, they're all Hindus, aren't they?
Yes, they're all Hindus.
Then that's another thing. One of the men was a Muslim. He was circumcised. If you want to know how I know, I'm quite prepared to tell you. Or you can leave it at that. One of the men was a Muslim. They are all hooligans. Apart from that, I can't tell you a thing. For all I know, they could have been British soldiers with their faces blacked.
Very well. Thank you, Miss Manners. I have no more questions. We're sorry to have had to subject you to this examination.
Anna, I think we've won.
My dear Ethel, we go on here much as before. I'm glad Daphne herself has written so much to you, and awfully glad that she will come to you to bear her child. Do you remember Miss Crane with her picture of Queen Victoria? During the riots, she was attacked on the road. The Indian school master who was with her, dead in her arms. Afterwards, she dressed in white like a good Indian widow in mourning. And now she, too, is dead. Yesterday we had the inquest, the usual stupid verdict. For I'm sorry to say that she committed a sort of suicide.
What am I here for? Why have they brought me here? I want to see the governor. I must be told the case against me. I haven't seen a lawyer for 7 weeks!
I must go and change now, if you'll excuse me, Connie.
Well, you know, it's Daphne I'll come to see.
I'll tell Ramaswamy we'll have dinner in half an hour.
What's going on between you and Aunt Lily?
Oh, don't worry, it's not an official visit by Mrs. Deputy C, as Lily likes to call me. Isn't it quiet at the McGregor? Hard to believe it's only a couple of months. Robin doesn't know I'm here, and I shan't tell him, but I thought you ought to know they've sent Hari Kumar away. They've put him and the other boys in prison.
What for?
All the papers went to the commissioner, so it's out of our hands now. But I wanted you to know, in case there's anything you can tell me.
What sort of thing, for heaven's sake?
Well, it all seems to start with a man called Pandit Baba.
Pandit Baba? What on earth has Pandit Baba got to do with the rape?
Oh, but that's the point. Hari Kumar isn't being sent to prison for the assault. He's being sent for political reasons, partly because he knew this man.
Harry knew Pandit Baba. I know Harry. Why did they send me to prison too?
That's the decision they reached under the defense of India.
It's a farce. Harry can prove it. It's a ridiculous, monstrous farce.
Well, that is just what puzzles me. The other boys denied everything. They shouted and wept and insisted they were innocent of everything except drinking hooch. And they were lying. But Harry was different. He was examined personally by Robin, and to every question, he said nothing. The only thing he ever said in his defense was, I wasn't at the Bibika. I haven't seen Miss Manners since the night we visited the temple. Well, of course, the men took his silence as a confession of guilt. But I'm a woman, like you. I think of Hari Kumar. And I listen to my husband talking about him to old men, and I think it's wrong. A man doesn't say nothing. Unless he's trying to put a noose round his neck. He fights for his life and his freedom because he is a man. I expect it's frightfully silly of me, but you know, if Hari Kumar had been an Englishman, I think I could have understood it better. And even then, it would have to be a silence imposed on him by a woman.
But yes, that's where you're wrong. That's the joke. He is, you see. For in spite of all temptations to belong to other nations, he is an Englishman. He is. I'm going mad. My poor Miss Crane. I saw her in the hospital. Miss Crane. She'd been attacked on the road. The Indian she was with was killed.
Yes.
There's nothing I can do. That's what she told me. When she got home, she went into this hut, a garden shed, and soaked the walls with paraffin. It was in the paper, that's how she did it. A circle of fire. It's wrong to say you commit suti, isn't it? It's a state of grace, you enter into it.
Drink this.
What is it? It won't harm the baby. I know you wouldn't.
What? You think that?
Sorry.
It will just give you a quiet night. Expectant mothers must be contemplative, like nuns.
But what am I to do? I have to get him back. You see, I can't live without him.
This you must learn to do. To live without.
came to say goodbye.
Where do you go to have the baby?
To my Aunt Ethel, Lady Manners in Kashmir. I'm leaving in 2 days.
You will go through. Go through to the end.
Why do you ask?
Have they tried to dissuade you?
Oh, yes. They make it sound awfully simple, like a duty.
Miss Manners, I have a confession. It has been on my conscience. On the night of Bibigar, when Mr. Merry came here to look for you, I said to him, perhaps she's called in at Mrs. Sengupta's. I thought only at that moment of my concern for what might have happened to you. But then I saw his face, how he looked round the room. Not just as a policeman making inquiries about a missing girl, as if he could tell that you and Kumar had been here together. It was a moment of surprise. The surprise of a man who felt he had a right to know all about your movements.
Yes. He seemed to think he had a right. He warned me against the association with Mr. Kumar.
And after this, perhaps it was that you and Kumar had a quarrel and did not see each other again, so that Mr. Merrick thought you had taken his warning to heart. Until I spoke those words. Perhaps she is called in at Mrs. Sengupta's.
I suppose that's how it might have happened. The way it might have looked to him.
And do you know where he is?
I've asked, but nobody will say. I went to the house in Chiliamwala Bagh. His Aunt Shalini wouldn't speak to me. She wouldn't even come out of her room, so you see, there's nothing I can do. It's a sort of silence. I think now it's the silence of India, behind the chatter and the violence. That's why he didn't speak. Why he told them nothing. Because there's nothing you can say. Only the silence. Can you hear me? Close your eyes and listen. The baby is yours. It's yours and mine together. It is going to be difficult, but I'm not afraid. We're together in the Bibigar. Always in the Bibigar. Hari, don't be nervous. Dear Auntie Ethel, I'm sorry for all the trouble and embarrassment I've caused you. I began to apologize once before when Aunt Lily brought me back last October, but you wouldn't listen. So I apologize now, not for my behavior, but for the effect it's had on you. I sometimes wonder what it must be like to be the aunt of that Manners girl. I know that's how people talk about me, and that it rubs off onto you. The awful thing is that if you ever read this, I shan't be here to smile and make the apology look human. I write it because I have premonitions of not getting through, and I should hate to kick the bucket knowing I'd made no attempt to set the record straight and break the silence we both seem to have agreed upon. Sorry about the morbid note. I don't feel morbid, Auntie. Just prepared. Of course, I wasn't a virgin. I'd had a lover, if you could call him that, in London before. I thought I loved him, but it is only Harry I have ever really loved. Almost more than anything else in the world, I want to talk about him to you. I've given up hope of ever seeing him again. That's why the child I bear is so important to me, even though I can't be positive it is Harry's. But I think so. I believe so. Auntie, promise me one thing. If the child survives and you can't bear to have it near you, you'll try to see that my money is used to give it some kind of start in life. I've got myself used to the idea you won't want it under your roof. Its skin may be as dark as Harry's, or as pale as mine. But whatever color, he or she is part of my flesh and blood, my own typically ham-fisted offering to the future. But even so, a child.
God, it's crying again. Do you hear? Yes, I can hear it. It woke me again last night. And I picked this for a quiet mooring. Really, it's too bad. One doesn't come on holiday to Kashmir to put up with that sort of thing. What sort of thing, Mother? That baby. I can't imagine what Lady Manners thinks she's doing. It was bad enough for the wretched girl to have the thing, but for her aunt to keep it, if that's what she intends. What do you think she should have done? I know what I should have done, and what the Manners girl should have done. Have it ripped out and throw the filthy muck to the pie dogs? That's what I heard one woman say. It was her own fault anyway, if it's true. If what's true? That she was in love with one of the men. Well, that's what they were saying up at the club. Someone came up from Mayapur and got rather squiffy and spilled the beans. That she'd been going round with an Indian, and that's why she refused to identify the men she was afraid to. Weren't you there, Sarah? We talked about it at Rose Cottage last summer. You remember? When everyone was talking about the riots in Mayapur and the dangers of a second mutiny. Yes. I remember. We were supposed to be visiting Auntie Mabel. Well, that's the theory, though honestly I can't see how she'll get away with it. If she's withholding evidence, I mean. For one thing, there's the bicycle. The bicycle, Miss Manners' bike. Apparently the police found it in a ditch outside her lover's house. Presumably he panicked and used it to escape from the scene of the crime. Oh, there'd be his fingerprints, of course. For heaven's sake, there must be evidence enough, whatever she may say.
Hello there!
Ah, Clara, at last. And look who's with her. Mabel's PG. I thought it seemed too quiet.
Of course, I've written to her, but it's too early to have a reply. I telephoned the hospital. They said the crisis was past. The crisis. I should have realized she'd contract pneumonia. Sitting in the rain, you see, nobody knows how long. Hello. Hello. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Barbie.
I was just telling Mrs. Fosdick about my friend, Edwina Crane. She's making a good recovery, it seems, but one doesn't know. After such a terrible experience. Attacked on the road, her car burnt out, the Indian schoolmaster who was with her dead in her arms. Of course, it's many years since I last saw her,
At the Bishop Barnard's call in Muzaffarabad.
If you want a drink, there's some nimble on the trolley.
If you can give me a moment, I'll go and fetch it for you. It's in my trunk, I'm sure. Something I promised to show Mrs. Fosdick. I'll bring it out here, then you can see.
What treat have we in store?
I think it's some sort of picture. She was chatting on. To do with her friend in my paw.
This bachelor's reflected glory. Pancott is all ears.
Seriously, Nicky, I'm worried about her. My Ricky almost knocked her down.
Where?
On Club Road, on the way up here. She was wandering about all over the shop and talking to herself.
Not really.
She jolly well was. Not in a loud voice, I mean, but definitely talking. I stopped and picked her up. I got the impression... Well, she was talking to her friend, Miss Crane. Well, that's what I think. And directly she got into the rickshaw, she said how kind it was of Mabel to let her invite Miss Crane to Rose Cottage as soon as she was well enough. And then she started talking about this picture and insisted I should see it.
Gosh. Does Mabel seriously intend to turn Rose Cottage into a home for ex-missionaries? I mean, one is enough, if you ask me.
I found it! A place for everything, and everything in its place, as my mother used to say. The jewel in the crown. That's what the picture's called. Edwina has one as well. She used it for teaching the children English. Here is the Queen, here in her crown, and so on. Pictures are so important when you're instructing the young, don't you agree? Of course, one has to be careful. Sarah, you'd like to see. Yes, Edwina once told me. In the end, she had an idea the children confused her with Victoria. Isn't that amusing? But you must admit, the artist got everything in. Princes, generals, paupers, children, statesmen, and old Victoria in the middle on her throne in the open air. Quite absurd, of course, because she never came to India. But it's allegorical, because the jewel isn't the one the prince is offering to his sovereign. The jewel is India, Disraeli's empire. Yes, the jewel is India.
So what happened about the bicycle? The bicycle? Miss Manner's cycle. Was it used in evidence? There was no trial. There was something fishy about that bike. Some Indian sub-inspector made a mistake, and people started saying the evidence was rigged. So they had to lock the culprits up under the Defence of India rules. It was a district superintendent of police who got the push. Of course, the usual thing. Civil or military, if you show some guts, they give you a medal first, then boot you off the scene. India's going anyway. They're only waiting till we've won the war. If Gandhi doesn't hand it over to the Japanese first. How could he? He's locked up too.
अरे दोस्त, सुदन मैम यहाँ है। मैं आ रहा हूँ।
Hello. I say, it's getting rather awkward.
What is?
This thing with Lady Manners. I passed quite close earlier and she was sitting out there on the deck. Mummy, what do you think I should have done? Suppose she'd waved.
Well, I'm not starting anything, Susan. One can ignore a wave.
Well, perhaps she doesn't want to speak to us. And what on earth could you say about the gravy? Where's Mohammed gone? I'm dying for a drink.
There's some nimble there.
Sarah, do be an angel.
Were there any letters at the boat station?
Nothing for you or Mother. One for me.
From Teddy?
Sounds pretty miserable according to the latest. Flying from a rat. Of course, he didn't fancy that, not having flown before. Gorgeous. And he's getting worried about the wedding. Hang on a sec. Yes. I haven't spoken to the G1 yet, so things on that front are pretty static. About getting leave for the wedding. It's rather hard to know the form. The worst thing about Marat at present is the weather. It's rained on and off every day, which is rotten for exercises, and thunder every bally night, which makes it hard to sleep.
Well,
The same. There's someone in the bed. Good Lord. Who is it? Did you hear him arrive?
I hope I didn't disturb you. My train was badly held up and I didn't get in till 0300. I've asked our orderly to call me with tea at 0830, so she'll skip breakfast. I look forward to meeting you later in the day and perhaps eating together. Meanwhile, my thanks and apologies for any noise last night. Ronald Merrick.
Well, gentlemen, you've listened to me long enough. The road ahead will be tough for all of you. Intensive training in jungle warfare, to meet with the Japanese again in Burma. This time on our terms. The only thing I promise you is this. You won't have time to be bored. I ask you now to give your attention to a junior officer who's recently joined my intelligence staff. What he will tell you is confidential and important to the picture of the enemy we expect to meet. He's a rare bird, an officer of the civil authority who's persuaded his department to let him into the army for the duration of the war. I don't wish to embarrass him, but I can tell you he could have chosen an appointment with more glamorous epaulets. Instead, he chose an active role and the rank of captain. So, Captain Merrick, would you take over now, please? No standing, gentlemen, to save disruption.
I say, that's the fellow who's in my room. How'd you take to him? I haven't spoken to him yet.
In 1940, a man called Subhas Chandra Bose, under arrest as an extremist member of the Indian National Congress, escaped from India through Afghanistan. Nothing exceptional in that. But Mr. Bose went to Berlin, and what he did in Germany may come as a surprise to some of you. With the declared intention of carrying on what he called India's fight for freedom, he succeeded in raising a unit of battalion strength from among Indian prisoners of war to assist Hitler in fighting us. Remember, these men were far from home, deprived of the one thing the Indian Army has always been justly proud of, the high level of trust between officers and men. Mr. Bose, I must tell you, is now in Tokyo, having travelled, not as he entered Afghanistan in a Tonga, but in a submarine. Circumstances since 1940 have moved greatly to his advantage. Now, there are many thousands of Indian prisoners of war taken by the Japanese in Burma and Malaya. And Mr. Gandhi himself, on behalf of Congress, has called on us to leave India to God or anarchy. It must be easy, then, for leaderless, lonely, and misguided sepoys to believe that the days of British imperialism are over, and that it is now the duty of every patriotic Indian to join an army to help the Japanese drive us out of India for good and all. Such an army has been formed. Intelligence reports indicate that it is called the Azad Hind Fauj, or Indian National Army, which I'll refer to as the INA. And some of you, perhaps in Burma, are going to meet it in the field. Which is why what I have to tell you, although confidential and in some ways disturbing, may be of use.
Extraordinary. He arrives mysteriously in the middle of the night and pops up like a jack-in-the-box at the briefing.
It was good stuff, I thought. Bit worrying, of course.
Actually, I should have spoken to him after, but he was talking to the Brigadier. About the INA, there's something he may not have thought of.
Here's your chance now.
Well, here goes. I'm Teddy Bingham. What'll it be? I mean, I'm the fellow you're sharing quarters with.
Yes. We meet at last, then.
Barrett! Can I get you a beer? Or perhaps you don't, Tiffin.
It's very good of you, but I'm rather pressed. I've got to be somewhere at 2, so I'm going to go right in. Could we make it this evening?
Yes, of course.
Good. We'll have to get to know each other. Oh, by the way, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hussein, the orderly, tells me you're getting married very soon.
Oh, did he? Well, yes, I am. Thanks.
Interesting, all that stuff this morning. No idea anything like that was going on. Only been in bloody India 6 months, huh? What was he, do you know? I mean, in the Indian government.
You mean in the civil? I have no idea.
Ah. Sort of spy, do you reckon? Eh?
Hold on a sec. Awful chaps you come across nowadays.
Who?
The fellow over there. The sort you meet in pubs on the Kingston bypass.
You coming in?
Actually, I think I'll skip Tiffin today. I've got that sinking feeling. It's just come on.
Oh, there's a lot of it about, they say.
I'll see you at the Dafter afterwards.
All right, old man.
Pictorial news from Burma, where a cameraman stationed near Mayu and operating with General Weibo's army turns his camera on British and Indian troops disembarking from sampans on their way to the front. The carrying of supplies creates a demand for manual labor. There are colored boys out east willing to lend a hand and a shoulder. In the hill country known as the Atakan Yoma, jungle fighting is the lot of men now acclimatized to the hardships of tropical warfare. More often than not, they don't see their enemy. They fire a sound, and they're pretty darn quick with the trigger finger. Smoke hangs over the dark green tangle of the Burmese no man's land. On the Atakan front, you'll find a strange selection of men, but as hardy and as fine as they make them.
Darling Teddy, thanks for your lovely letter.
Bugger this.
August 23rd, 1943, Srinagar. Darling Teddy, thanks for your lovely letter, though I was sorry to hear about your journey and the rotten weather. It's lovely here today, and the lake looks cool and misty. And I do miss you a lot.
Oh, God.
Now, what about that leave, darling? Don't want to nag, but you must know there's heaps to be done before the wedding. Please get it fixed as soon as possible and let me know.
Oh, Susan.
Hussain!
Sahib?
Where's it gone? There was a bicycle out there.
Bicycle, Sahib? Bicycles are here.
I know that, you ass. There was another bike out there, before Tiffin. Mem Saab's bike. It was all bashed up with one wheel missing.
Sahib, this bicycle no good. One wheel is missing.
I don't want the bloody thing. I want to know where it's gone.
How am I telling, Saab? Only I'm seeing bicycles are here. Coming, Sahib.
Ah, there you are. I'm sorry about lunchtime. I didn't see you come to the dining room, by the way.
As a matter of fact, I got rather taken short.
Oh, Mirat tummy?
Sort of.
I've got some stuff that'll settle that. I expect you've been sitting under a fan or drinking too much iced beer. Hold on, I'll get it for you. It's all right, I'll pour. Tends to come out in a dribble, and then in a rush. It cements you up. If you have another dose of that in the morning, you'll be as right as rain.
Thanks. It must be the humidity. I've been stationed up in the hills the past few months. I'm not used to it.
Actually, the humidity here is fairly low. Have you ever been in Sundanaga?
I've never even heard of Sundanaga.
Your shoes go green overnight. I had an inspector there who swore he was getting webbed feet, and he was an Indian.
An inspector? Were you in the Indian police then?
DSP.
I say, Merrick.
Yeah?
Well, you'd think at least that little blighter could change my shoes. Where's he gone?
He may be on an errand.
Oh.
It's one for me. Sorry. There's a shoehorn in my kit you may find useful. And then we'll go over to the mess and have that drink together. All right?
You know what I've been thinking? About what you said this morning about the INA. Most of those fellows who've gone over to the Japs could be wangling their way out of prison camp to get back to us. That's what I can't help thinking.
Precisely.
Precisely what?
That's what you can't help thinking. As an officer in the Muzaffarabad Guides. Your father's regiment, I expect, too. I'm afraid I think all that's a myth. Devotion to the Raj, loyalty to the humble Indian. My experiences as a police officer have blighted my enthusiasm for ideas like that. But then, my origins and yours were probably quite different. I was a grammar school boy.
Oh, really? I was an awful duffer at school, if it comes to that. You don't think it's true, then, what I said, that these men aren't really traitors?
No, I think it's true that many of them will persuade themselves they have fine motives for doing what they want. Isn't that what we all do?
Right. But I still think there are a few things one just doesn't do. I don't blame the other ranks so much. But when it comes to King's commissioned officers, whatever color...
That's beyond the pale.
Yes.
See you in there, Teddy.
Does a bicycle have any special significance to you, old man?
Bicycle? What do you mean, special significance?
Well, it's a sort of symbol of the INA.
Not that I'm aware of. Why?
I found one on the veranda at Tiffin. It wasn't there when I got back this evening. A lady's bike. It was broken.
Just that? A broken bicycle?
Well, there were these marks, too. Like some kind of puja in front of the door. I'm afraid I scuffed them out.
What a pity. Do you remember the marks in any detail?
Afraid not. I say, do you think I was right?
About what?
The INA.
Have you told anyone?
I asked Hussein. He didn't know what I was talking about. I expect the little beggar thought I was accusing him of something.
Have you mentioned the bicycle and the marks to anyone else?
No.
Then I shouldn't.
Between ourselves.
Yes. Now, let me get you another of those before we eat. Bearer! Dough Barra Peg soda. To kill the bugs. So, when's the wedding?
December, or earlier.
Earlier, surely. And once jungle training starts, you won't get the chance. If you've decided to get married, I'd do it right away, here in Mirat. There's a hill station called Nanora that's quite close if you've only 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days?
It's quite possible.
Good Lord. We hadn't seen it a bit like that. I mean...
How had you seen it?
Oh, a proper wedding. In Pancot. That's where we met. Her father's station. Cheers.
Her father?
Colonel Layton. Pancot Rifles. He's a prisoner of war in Germany, by the way.
I see.
So, it'll have to be a pucker wedding. Pancot expects. That sort of thing. Well, what about after Christmas?
I shouldn't count on it.
You seem well informed.
Well advised.
But 2 or 3 days. Here, in Mirat. And what about the guests and family?
Oh, there might be a way to handle that, if you don't mind a suggestion.
I should say not. If there's anyone round here who knows the score, it seems to be you. Are you married, Merrick?
No. I'm, not. Tell you over dinner.
Actually, it's all turned out to be quite simple. Rather exciting, in fact. Can't remember if I told you, but Mirat is a princely Indian state. Oh, this is the bit. It seems the old Nawab has a guest house in the palace grounds that is made available to us for special visitors. There's tons of room for all of you, apparently, including Aunt Fanny and Uncle Arthur. I've checked with the SSO, and it's free for the October dates we want. Sorry it's such an awful rush, but it could be fun. There's a nice old church in the cantonment, and afterwards we can shoot up to the Nanora Hills in just a few hours. Well, 72 hours is all they've given us. What do you think?
Doesn't appear you have much choice. Full marks to him for information and method, anyhow. Doesn't sound like Teddy.
What? to be so organised.
There's more to Teddy than you think.
Yes, of course. There must be.
Mummy.
Really, it's what you think, Susan. You're the one who has to decide.
Well, I think it will be fun. Of course, people in Pancot will be disappointed.
Furious.
But it's my wedding, so we'll just have to tell them. They know there's a war.
Yes.
And Daddy can't be there in any case, so it won't be the same.
At least there's one good thing.
What's that?
We'll have to go home early. So we'll send Mohammed round to her house. Apologies. No time to call. That's that.
Suleiman, help the Memsahib.
I'm Sarah Lane, from the next houseboat. You sent us your card.
Ah, yes.
So I was bringing you ours, but as I saw you, my mother and sister have gone to the bazaar, so I thought I'd call.
Miss Layton, I've seen your family on several occasions.
Yes. Quite honestly, we didn't know what to do, what we should say. About the awful business of your niece, I mean. That's why we haven't called.
But now you have.
We're going home in a few days, so it was the last chance. I wondered if you wouldn't mind, if I could see the baby. I've often heard her.
You want to see Parvati?
Is that her name? Yes, if I may.
I shall be delighted. Will you follow me? Of course, she may be seen. Layton Memsahib to see Parvati.
May I? She's so tiny. Thank you.
Miss Layton, will you take tea?
Please, I should love to.
I think of Daphne often. Her mother looked healthy enough, but she died young. And Dr. Krishnamurti warned Daphne.
It was dangerous for her.
The labour, yes. She never saw the child. Pancot. Henry and I were there quite often during the time he was governor of the province. We never met your parents, though. Your father commands the 1st Pancot Rifles.
Yes.
Sad he can't be at your sister's wedding. Now, she's
Susan.
And you are Sarah. I have it now. And 2 years younger than you are. Well, you will like Mirat. I suppose lending the guest house is part of the Nawab's war effort. He must be getting on a bit. And so must his wazir. An extraordinary Russian emigre count, Brunovsky, I think. You must look out for him.
The English used to hate him until they realized what a good influence he was. Shall you be sorry to go back early to your station?
Yes, in some ways. Lady Manners, I wonder if you could give us some advice. We've been talking about a present, something to give the Nawab for letting us have the guest house. As you knew him quite well, perhaps you could suggest what he might like.
A present?
We just couldn't think.
Well, you know, the Nawab is distantly related to ex-Chief Minister Kazim, a charming man. Unfortunately, we've put him in prison. And both of them are related to the 18th century Urdu poet, Ghaffur. I think the most flattering gift might be a specially bound copy of Ghaffur's poems.
That's a wonderful idea.
You can get one in Srinagar and easily have it bound here, though that might take a few days. There's certainly a shop in Rampur, in the bazaar, where they do excellent leatherwork and gold leaf blocking. You could arrange for it on your way through. Is that a good idea?
Yes. I'm sorry. I was just thinking...
What?
What a lot you know.
It's one of the advantages of old age. One becomes a repository for casual bits and pieces of information. Some of them are useful.
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. What I meant was know, not remember. I can't quite explain. Please forgive me. I've taken up too much of your time.
But I have time, in some ways. Will you come again?
Yes, if I can.
I understand.
Hello? Auntie Mabel? Hello? We're back again. Mother and Susan are busy at home. They asked me to give you their love.
Did you enjoy the holiday?
We had to come back early. Susan's getting married in Marat. The plans are all changed.
Hello. Barbie told me. She heard it at the club library. She brings me all the news, you see.
Mother would have written. There wasn't time. How beautiful the garden looks.
Oh, does it?
You do such a lot.
Yes, but it often strikes me as something the gods once loved and then forgot. It should have died young. I'm not here forever. And I'm not sure that I love it enough. Have you seen Barbie? I think she's in the house. I know she'll want to see you.
I'll go up and say hello.
Aziz will bring you anything you want.
Of course, I've been dying to have a chat about the wedding. It's so exciting. Thank you, Aziz. A wedding in Mirat. I've never been there, but I've seen photographs. Palaces, mosques and minarets. And Susan in her veil will be standing by a fountain. Have you noticed how still she's become since the engagement was announced? Or have I imagined it? You don't take sugar, do you?
No, thank you, Barbie.
And how will you manage on the journey?
Well, Tony Bishop is to be best man.
Oh, yes, they'd arranged that.
He's applied for leave to General Rankin, so he'll be able to travel with us.
So you'll have a man on the journey. And will the Nawab be at the wedding?
Oh, I'm sure he'll be invited.
Perhaps he won't come. It might be rather fraught, if that's the word I want.
How do you mean?
Well, we locked up a relative of his, Muhammad Ali Qasim, the Muslim congressman, put him in clink. But then India's full of oddities like that. Have you talked to Mabel about the wedding?
No, not really. Is she very disappointed now she can't come?
Oh, I'm sure she'd have liked to be there, but Mirat's so far. Too far. She gets tired easily, and she does too much.
You'd have liked to come too, wouldn't you, Barbie?
Me? Oh, I shouldn't have been there in any case. Your mother wouldn't want me.
Why do you say that?
We won't. We mustn't talk about it.
Why? Why mustn't we?
Not about me. It's nothing to do with me. It's to do with Mabel and your mother. But you see, I am the cause.
Of what?
Of ill feeling. Oh, I'm not such a fool. I can see. I know what people say. You should be living here. Rose Cottage belonged to your grandfather. And if Mabel had still been living here alone when war began, you would have come here.
But she didn't want to be here alone. She wanted someone to share Rose Cottage with. That's how you came.
But still, you see, I am the cause. There's nothing I can do. Everyone in Pancot says that Rose Cottage is too big for us and the Grace and Paver bungalow too small for all of you.
Auntie Mabel would never leave Rose Cottage. Everyone knows that.
Do you think your mother does? After all, she isn't your aunt. She's your grandfather's second wife.
Well, we've always called her Auntie Mabel. It's what she wanted since we were children.
She's your mother's stepmother-in-law. Oh, mothers-in-law are bad enough. There was a song my father used to sing when he was married. We were going to talk about the wedding, and look, I'm going on about my father.
And I've got to go. Thanks for the coffee, Barbie. Oh, you've hung the picture.
Yes, Aziz did it for me. He likes to look at it. And it reminds me of Edwina. This is the jewel. Here is the crown. How many of those children did I bring to God? That's what I wonder. And has he any purpose? She burnt herself, soaked the walls with paraffin of the garden shed, and she came out of hospital. A fearful thing. She never answered my letters.